Welcome to the Dyslexia channel. My name is Bill Madigan and I'm going to be your host. Dyslexia is perhaps the largest disability that there is, accounting for a 14% illiteracy rate in the United States. You'll notice that I didn't say learning disability, and here's why. We know that some children struggle learning how to read. For now, let's call those children dyslexics, although I'm not a great fan of that term. We also know that teachers and school systems work very hard and spend a lot of resources trying to teach these dyslexics to read, usually with unsuccessful results. So what do we have here? A learning problem or a teaching problem? Let's dig a little bit deeper and learn more. So what exactly is a disability? The Merriam-Webster dictionary says that a disability is a physical, mental, cognitive, or developmental condition that impairs, interferes with, or limits a person's ability to engage in certain tasks or actions, or participate in typical daily activities and interactions. Well, that's a mouthful. With that definition in mind, I would say that not being able to read is a disability, but understanding what kind of disability it is a whole different matter. On one hand, we have a huge population who cannot seem to learn how to read, and on the other, we have a vast group of teachers and schools that don't seem to be able to teach them to read. The struggling readers are intelligent people who are trying as hard as they can. And the teachers are intelligent people who are trying as hard as they can. Some struggling readers do learn to read fluently, usually with outside help. And that tells us that dyslexics can become fluent readers. The non-dyslexic majority of students learn to read in schools without any difficulty, which suggests that teachers know what they are doing. So what is the disconnection? As a practical matter, dyslexics do not learn to read because the system that is trying to teach them to read is designed specifically for non-dyslexics. School systems make the assumption that all their students have certain cognitive and phonological skills and build their curriculum, teaching methods, and classroom practices for those students. Unfortunately, dyslexics are not those students. In my opinion, school systems can connect with dyslexics to train and teach them to read. But to accomplish this, all stakeholders will have to change their thinking in some very basic ways. Things can change for the better, but for that to happen, all parties must first be honest and open about what they are doing. Sounds simple, but it's not. Teachers have to admit that they might not know everything about what is going on in their classrooms with all their students. Administrators will have to come to grips with the fact that the system they have built is not serving all their students. Parents will have to admit that there are differences between children and that these things cannot be ignored. School boards and the public will have to adjust to the fact that they will have to invest a small amount of taxpayer money in school children instead of kicking the can down the road and having the public shoulder the cost of illiterate adults. Most importantly, all stakeholders will have to break their addiction to accommodations. It is not acceptable to read tests to students or provide other accommodations instead of teaching those students to read for themselves. Administrators, teachers, parents, and students may feel better and the students will get better grades, but the world does not accommodate non-readers, and sooner or later the dyslexic will suffer, and that suffering will last a lifetime. What I'm saying here is that all stakeholders are allowing dyslexia to be a disability when it doesn't have to be. The public, that's right, all of us, charge our school systems with providing a reasonable and customary education to our children. To accomplish this, the system hires administrators and teachers to teach various subjects, and they build curriculums around those subjects and teach them accordingly. In essence, teachers and systems teach subjects and base their practices on the students having the ability to learn those subjects. That's teaching. The one exception to this is the physical education teacher, who exposes students to physical skills and helps the student to improve those skills through training. This training progresses through 3 stages until the skill becomes automatic. Think of a student learning to play basketball. At first they are awkward and have to concentrate on everything. With practice and over time, the movements of the sport become more automatic. With enough time and practice, the student can become adept at the sport and just play the game without having to think about each physical move they are making. That's training. So along comes the dyslexic student. Unbeknownst to them, their parents, and their teachers, they lack from birth the variety of cognitive and phonological skills that must be in place before they can learn to read. The school will do everything in their power to help their dyslexic students learn to read, but their efforts are limited by the fact that their preparation as teachers is focused on teaching subjects. These teachers are not trainers. A dyslexia trainer or therapist, instead of teaching a subject, builds the cognitive and phonological skills that a dyslexic needs in much the same way as the gym teacher or coach builds skills in their student athletes. The neural pathways that dyslexia therapists build are what allows the dyslexic to learn to read and write fluently. As the dyslexic builds the skills they lack, teachers can efficiently teach subjects because the dyslexic now has the same cognitive and phonological skills as the non-dyslexic. We've already talked a little about memory, and one of the areas where memory issues become very obvious is spelling. So what can be done? The first thing to do is not to give a child suspected of being dyslexic a spelling test. Each time that child spells a word incorrectly, they must spell it correctly about 100 times to undo the damage. Add to that one time that the child spells the word correctly, everyone applauds and thinks that little Tommy knows how to spell that word. Nothing could be further from the truth. The letters just happen to come in the correct order that one time, and the next time will likely be in a different sequence. Here's a practical approach. Never let the child spell the word incorrectly. Provide the child with the letters that spell the word on tiles, such as Scrabble tiles or pieces of paper. Make 2 sets of tiles with the letters needed. Place the tiles with the word spelled correctly in front of the child, and then scramble the second set of tiles. Have the child physically put the second set of tiles back in the correct order, beginning with the first letter, and saying each letter as they do so. Never let the child put a tile in an incorrect position. The idea here is to use vision, hearing, and touch to reinforce the correct spelling, and never allowing the child to spell the word incorrectly. Thank you for spending a little time. I hope you found our information about dyslexia as a disability and our spelling tip helpful. Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll begin to explore the causes of dyslexia. Understanding these causes is critical in helping a dyslexic become a fluent reader. I'm Bill Madigan, wishing you success and looking forward to being with you again soon.